On a cold winter night in Atlanta, Georgia, a quiet diner stood resilient against the chill of the empty streets. Inside, the aroma of sizzling food and the gentle hum of a country tune created an unassuming warmth. Among the patrons sat truck drivers and laborers, their faces tired but content, savoring simple meals that brought comfort after long days. At the far end of the diner, Eliza, a 24-year-old waitress, moved gracefully from table to table. Her faded apron and worn shoes spoke of long hours, but her steadfast demeanor told a story of resilience forged through years of overcoming challenges. Eliza's smile was genuine as she served patrons. She refilled coffee mugs and exchanged warm words with the regulars. Her small gestures of kindness unnoticed by some, but cherished by those who understood their value. To Eliza, the diner wasn't just a workplace. It was a haven for the weary and the downtrodden. It was a place where she could offer solace, even in the smallest ways. At a corner table sat Mr. Raymond, an elderly homeless man, his hands trembling as he fidgeted with a worn newspaper. Eliza approached with a small plate of bread and set it before him. "I thought you might need this," she said gently. "It's warmer in here than out there." Mr. Raymond looked up, his weathered face breaking into a grateful smile. "Thank you, Eliza. You're always so kind." Moments like these defined Eliza. Her life hadn't been easy. Her mother's illness and her brother's education were constant burdens, but she faced each day with a quiet strength and a determination to spread light in a world often shadowed by hardship. The diner's bell jingled as the door swung open, letting in a rush of icy wind. In stepped Daniel, a man whose tailored coat and polished shoes hinted at wealth and status. At 45, he carried an air of solitude and weariness, his face lined with the burdens of a life spent in isolation. Daniel was a self-made billionaire, known throughout the city for his business acumen and reclusive nature. He had come to the diner seeking respite from a world he found suffocating, though he would never admit it. As Daniel took a seat by the window, Eliza approached with her notepad. "Good evening. What can I get you?" Daniel's gaze flicked to her briefly before he spoke. "A burger and black coffee. No sugar." His tone was curt, but Eliza remained unfazed. She jotted down the order and walked away, her thoughts drifting to the man who seemed so out of place in the humble diner. Minutes later, as Daniel began eating, a sudden commotion shattered the quiet atmosphere. He clutched his throat, his face contorted in panic as he struggled to breathe. Patrons froze, their expressions mirroring his terror, but no one moved to help. Eliza's sharp eyes immediately assessed the situation. Setting down her tray, she strode toward Daniel with purpose. "Step back," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Wrapping her arms around Daniel's midsection, Eliza delivered a series of forceful thrusts. On the third attempt, the lodged piece of food flew from his throat, landing with a dull thud on the table. Daniel collapsed into his chair, gasping for air. As the diner erupted into murmurs of relief and awe. "She saved him," someone exclaimed. Eliza knelt beside Daniel, her hand on his shoulder. "You're okay now. Just take slow breaths," she said softly. Daniel's eyes met hers, gratitude and astonishment shining through his fatigue. He had never imagined his life would be saved by a young woman who, moments earlier, had simply been a waitress. In the days that followed, Daniel found himself returning to the diner, drawn not by the food, but by Eliza's unassuming kindness. Their conversations were initially brief and guarded, but over time, a bond began to form. Daniel shared fragments of his life, his lonely childhood, the pressures of his wealth, and Eliza listened with a quiet understanding that made him feel seen for the first time in years. One evening, as the diner's patrons dwindled, Eliza revealed a piece of her own story. "I wanted to be a doctor once," she said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "But when my mom got sick, I had to leave school to support my family. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was the right one." Daniel was struck by her selflessness. "You gave up your dream for others. That's more than most people would do," he said, admiration evident in his tone. Eliza smiled faintly. "Sometimes life asks us to make sacrifices, but I've learned that helping others can be its own kind of fulfillment. Their connection deepened with each passing day. Daniel, once consumed by his own isolation, began to see the world through Eliza's eyes. She taught him that kindness and love held more value than all the wealth he had amassed. And for Eliza, Daniel's presence became a reminder that her sacrifices hadn't gone unnoticed, that she was deserving of love and happiness, too. But their budding relationship wasn't without challenges. Daniel's family, steeped in tradition and prejudice, disapproved of Eliza, viewing her as an outsider unworthy of his status. Margaret, Daniel's mother, and his sister, Victoria, confronted Eliza at the diner, their words cutting and dismissive. "You don't belong in his world," Margaret said coldly. "Take this money and leave." Eliza's grip tightened on the counter, but she met Margaret's gaze without flinching. "I'm not here for his money," she said firmly, "and I won't walk away just because you think I'm not good enough. Daniel sees me for who I am, and that's enough." When Daniel arrived and saw what was happening, he didn't hesitate. "If you can't accept Eliza, then you can't accept me," he told his family, his voice resolute. "She's shown me what it means to truly live. I won't give that up." The turning point came during a charity gala hosted by Daniel's family. When a medical emergency struck, Victoria's son having a severe allergic reaction, it was Eliza who stepped forward, her calm precision saving the boy's life. In that moment, Margaret's perception of Eliza shifted. "I was wrong about you," she admitted later. "You've shown more courage and grace than anyone I've ever known." As the months passed, Eliza and Daniel's love proved unshakable. They worked together to open a community clinic, fulfilling Eliza's dream of helping others while blending their worlds into something new. Their wedding, held in the modest church where Eliza had spent years volunteering, was a celebration of love's triumph over adversity. Surrounded by family, friends, and the community they had built together, Eliza and Daniel began a new chapter, their journey a testament to the power of kindness and the strength of the human spirit. Together, they showed that love could transcend barriers of class and race, proving that even the smallest acts of compassion could transform lives and shatter boundaries. And in the quiet moments they shared, under a sky full of stars, they found solace in the knowledge that their love had the power to inspire others to believe in the extraordinary force of kindness.